Hello everyone! Venusaur is the topic of the day, and it's one of the strongest picks in Great League right now, since it has immense shield pressure and winning matchups against fighters and water types. And it's also pretty decent against Galarian Stunfisk and Bastiodon, for example. And Frenzy Plant is mandatory for it to be successful, and in the Kanto event that's coming up you will be able to get that. But it's by no means a safe Pokemon to play, since there are plenty of very hard counters to Venusaur, so here I will show you an easy way of building a strong team for Venusaur. I want to lead with it, so I need to choose two Pokemon in the back that defeats the most common counters to Venusaur. So first I have to identify these threats, and here is my selection, and that is Abomasnow, which has been really common in Season 6, and then also Alolan Marowak, which stomps Venusaur, and next I also have Skarmory, since it's probably the hardest wall to Venusaur, and lastly I put in two Psychic types that I have been facing a lot in the lead this season. What we are going to do here is that we put these counters in a team builder in PvPoke and see what Pokemon performs best against these. Here is a list of the best suggestions that deals with the most common Venusaur counters, and then you can basically pick any two of all of these to have in the back. And Sableye is the only real safe swap here, so it's probably the best Pokemon to have as a first swap, but there's also plenty of room to run a double of the same type in the back structure, if you like that. So here I put together 5 strong teams that all have a fair chance of performing good in the Great League, and on top of these there is also a line that FPSticks likes with Sableye and Umbreon, and then ThoTechtical has a line with Sableye and Galarian Stunfisk. So they have also gone through this thought process, and maybe not in the exact same way, but for sure similar, which they have done videos about, so feel free to check them out. Anyways, now I will show you all of these teams in a 5-0 set, and my first opponent is Holly, and she leads with Toxicroak, which is a fairly neutral matchup, but she switches immediately, which tells me that there is something very good against Venusaur in the back, so I'm staying in for one Frenzy Plant before switching out. Because she would have stayed in with the Toxicroak if she had a bad backline against the Venusaur. So here, since the Obstagoon has 0 play against the Toxicroak, I just sacrifice it to absorb all of this energy from the Pelipper, and then I will farm down. And I'm farming down with Sableye, since I want to have as much energy as possible on it, since I know that the Sableye defeats Toxicroak without problem, and it's likely going to have a better matchup against the last Pokemon too than Venusaur. So in this game, Sableye is the MVP. So I go for return, and they don't shield, and then they have a Hypno in the back, so they know it's over. And my next opponent is Savannah Angel, and in this line I play Alolan Marowak and Sableye, and she leads with Bastiodon, which is great for me, because I have a high attack Venusaur, so I hit the Vine Whip breakpoint that deals 50% more damage, so I actually win the 1 shield against it. So either I get switch advantage, or I take both of her shields, just by shielding once myself, and I will outpace the Bastiodon to 3 Frenzy Plant before they reach 2 Flamethrower. And this team with Alolan Marowak is actually my favorite Venusaur team, since it deals with fighting types so good. And here there's no point in me shielding, so I will let them have the switch advantage, but they switch immediately, and it turns out it's the good old Grasshole team. So here I'm not playing perfectly, I should have just switched in Alolan Marowak instead, but I go for the return, and then they have a Shadow Victreebel, and I was hoping to reach the Shadow Bone before they got a charge move, but at this point it doesn't really matter. I shouldn't have used it, but in the end there's no way for them to come back in this situation. So I reached the Bone Club and KO'd the Bastiodon, and that's a GG. And next up, in game number 3, I face Peter Morrow, and he leads with Galarian Stunfisk, and here in this line I have Mandybus and Sableye. So they switch into the Medicham immediately, and that's great for my Sableye. And here I'm not going to shield, even though this will put my Sableye very low, and my opponent can use both of his shields to get switch advantage, but I need to have some shields for my Venusaur against the Galarian Stunfisk, since an Earthquake will almost one-shot the Venusaur. So here my opponent did not want to go into a shield deficit and instead decided that they will put all of their faith into their own Venusaur, but I have Mandybus, which is a hard counter to Venusaur, and then my Venusaur in the back will have plenty of health to deal with the Galarian Stunfisk. So at this point it's over, but my opponent is still playing out this game, but even Mandybus will be able to put a dent into this Galarian Stunfisk, and now my opponent realized that it's over. Next up is XMota in game number 4, and here I run double tanks with Galarian Stunfisk and Bastiodon in the back, and they lead with Politoed, so that's great for me, but I really need to maintain switch advantage, and I do so by switching in Bastiodon, because Bastiodon wins against Umbreon in all even shield scenarios, but Galarian Stunfisk has very little play against Politoed, and Venusaur destroys Politoed as long as I don't get hit by a Blizzard. So at this point, when they don't shield and I can have my shields for an eventual Blizzard in the end, I'm still in a great spot. And this team with Galarian Stunfisk and Bastiodon is fairly common nowadays, and I'm pretty happy that it is so, because I've been promoting the double tank strat for like a year and it's finally starting to see some play. So now I maintain switch advantage and I go straight for the Frenzy Plant to pressure some shields, and here I'm really afraid of the Blizzard, so I'm going to shield this, and then they are charging up to another Blizzard, but then try to catch the Frenzy Plant on Skarmory. And here Galarian Stunfisk has a winning matchup against Skarmory, but it's still a pretty bad situation, because if this Galarian Stunfisk gets farmed down by the Politoed, then the Politoed will basically have 100 energy, and my Venusaur is just at 1 charge move, so the Politoed will be able to reach 2 charge moves, and then it's a 50-50 if they get the bait or if I don't shield the Blizzard. So it's still by no means over, but when I was able to farm this down and fire off an Earthquake to take the lost shield on Politoed, now it's over, because they are not in a position where they can land the Blizzard on Venusaur. So that was actually a pretty close game. In the last game of the set I go up against Who Knows Not, and I have my Umbreon and Galarian Stunfisk in the back. So they lead with Ferrothorn, which is terrible for me, but they make 8 Bullet Seeds here, which made this Flash Cannon the easiest catch of my life, since they are unlikely to bait and they are not going to make a 9th Bullet Seed because they are at 100 energy. And then I also baited out the Medicham, and on top of that I got the shield. So even though I'm very hard countered so far, I am able to ever so slightly just put the odds in my favor. So here they have 2 charge moves, but I also have 2 Frenzy Plants and I win CMP. So I'm going to shield this Psychic, and I don't want to get hit by an Ice Punch, so I go for a second CMP with a Frenzy Plant and KO it. And then they come back in with the Ferrothorn, of course, which means more farm for my Venusaur. And then I catch the Flash Cannon again to save my Venusaur with some energy in the back, and they have a Azumarill. So now think about it. They have a very hard counter to Venusaur, and then they have 2 very hard counters to both Umbreon and Galarian Stunfisk in the back. So how on earth am I gonna win this game? Actually, it's all thanks to that extra energy that I farmed on Venusaur. So Venusaur gives so much value in this game, because it is still basically at full health, since these Bullet Seeds haven't dealt anything. And I'm charging up to a Foul Play on my Umbreon in the back. So now I have a charge move ready on it, and the Ferrothorn, it will easily be able to tank 1 Sludge Bomb, but when I have so much energy that I can reach a second charge move and I threat to reach a 4th charge move, then they are just not going to be able to get enough energy themselves to KO both my Venusaur and my Umbreon. So I got completely hard countered, but still managed to find a way. And that's it for this video. I hope that you found the team building part interesting, so that you can use it on your own to build your own teams. And I also want to say thanks for 1,000 subscribers. And I will make some kind of 1,000 subscriber special, so please feel free to ask questions that you want answered or give me ideas on what to do in that video. And thanks for watching.